So that's what I was trying to say to you. So what happened was, in understanding that there was something else going on here within the so-called justice system, and understanding that there seemed to be some weird stuff going on. You soon said, "Oh, you got to come to show up," because then he started to break some stuff down to me about the fact that, that was representative of the fact that those people weren't, that there were tribes that were here before they came here, and they had family names. Right. But also, more importantly, that there was family lineage here, or there was heritage here before the European came here. And ultimately, name denotes possession. So ultimately, I have a slave name because I've been branded, so-called, right? A non-Begir. That's not my real. If I was to go back enough into my past, I would find my name that connected to my heritage, whereas not the name that was sort of put on me by the fact of really colonization, by my grandfather on my father's side coming down, and then sort of, I guess, mating with or having an offspring that created my father. That name then got put on him. That slave name, so-called, got put on him. Right?
That's kind of like the same kind of case in me as well.
Right. So you'll look back far enough, and then back behind my grandfather, let's say, there would be Aboriginals, and their names would probably be there. They would probably be in the islands, and then we would be back home. But what's happened is they sort of stopped you at my last name, and that name then sort of reflects everything. We're not talking about anything behind that, and on top of that, really behind that, due to the fact that there's other type of operations in effect. These ones are to make sure that we don't wake up. The education system, the Incompetence, all that stuff, the Christian black codes, all those things that were meant to make sure that we never get back there, first of all, on an intellectual level, but then also manifested in terms of what do you call it, profiling and all that stuff, what do you call it, streamlining, all of those things, making sure that none of the teachers are representative of our culture anyways, the inherent racism that's simmering behind everything being what's holding us down, right, on a man-to-man level, not even inclusive of the fact that we're all one people, and we should then be like the Filipinos or the Manchurians, and we should really be hanging like that, yet we're not.
Yeah, actually, I've always wondered why is that when they get a neighborhood, community, when they're literally just that.
That's because that's how culture works.
Yeah, and I've always wondered why we never know.
We were just talking about that 2 days ago. I said the only thing we have is this place over here, Eglinton and Marley.
Yeah,
that's one spot. I mean, there are a couple other spots. I'm trying to think where they are. I'm sure there's a couple in Scarborough, but that's the one that is Eglinton and Marley for me here. Are there spots out in Scarborough, Cujo?
What's that?
That would be like sort of like Eglinton and Marley here where Raps is. There must be sort of spots like that a little bit. Like sort of so-called our community.
Not. Out there it'll be more
like mixed almost, right?
Huh? Yeah. I don't think there's any, unless you go to like the block or whatever. Certain areas, but if they got a convenience store, it ain't them that owns it.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's nothing like this little Eglinton and Marley place anywhere else, really. I mean, I sort of think that I can't even. Anyway, so that's why I was asking you what. So at that point, once I got introduced to the science behind the illusion and understanding to put the proper name to it versus racism, colonialism, or human trafficking, or any of that stuff, right? Colonialism would be, to my mind, the name that they put to the process, colonizing, right? But I think it's a little bit deeper. I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I think that's sort of the that's just what's in operation. Sure, yeah, yeah. So once that happened, then I came here, and that was think 6, 7 years ago, and it's
never.
yeah, yeah.
I was well, I'm still working at Simplism now. One of our coworkers before he left was telling me about I saw him doing something. It was like praise Ra and everything. I used to think praise Ra. I know he was talking about like Egyptian God. He's like, yeah. So what do you mean? Why are you praising Ra and Horus and everything? Because that's for history. So, yeah, obviously. Right? And I'm like, okay.
It's funny how you said obviously, but you were obviously.
I already knew.
But you were a bit disconnected from the sense of feeling it was African.
Yes. But listening more to it, it's like, yeah, they took that, they rewrote it, and they gave it to in the King James version pretty much. He's studying the Bible, and I'm like, what do you mean? Watch this video. I go home, I watch it. Ashwar Kwesi, that's the name.
Yep.
African Origins of Christianity.
One of the masters.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I wouldn't get slapped like that.
I was just here like.
See, that's what you see what I'm saying? That's what I was asking about.
Oh, let's do the, and then we'll continue.
Oh man, it hurt. I was like, and then Dr. Ray Higgins, and that's when I just.
So just in terms of in case, because I gotta still try to get my car up.
Yeah, you still gotta take it up to the thing?
Yeah, I gotta do something. So I just right?
Yeah.
But if someone else comes, obviously, right. Okay.
5 on the left, 2 on the right.
Mm-hmm.
Allah, Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide, and my salvation. By night, and by day. His holy prophet, Mohammed Islam.
So yeah, you're saying you're watching these guys, Ray Higgins, all that stuff. So it was at that watershed moment. It's funny that we can think about this, right? This is where I think the prophet said it's going to be told in a conflict that can't be told in words.
Yes.
You're watching a man who's actually activating you again.
Yes.
This is what I said to Yasun, his cousin. Basically, we've been here many generations. He just woke me up this time.
Right, yeah.
He just came in. I was ready for it on all other levels. Yeah. They'd done their sorcery, and then he just connected. It was just like that. When they talk about that virus thing, it just went like this.
Yeah.
And that was the thing.
You got it.
And same thing with you. You saw Raw thing, and he was showing you home, and then he said, "Go like this," and that was it. Right now, it's in there. Now, what happens? What happens
after?
Yeah. Right. And then certain people get touched with it in certain ways, and whatever. Right.
Which again goes in line with what we're dealing with today about the counter incompetence. Oh, you sit on that a little bit. The counter incompetence. The counter incompetence program by Noel Drawley. Right. That.
Oh, counter incompetence.
Yeah.
Negatives.
Yeah. So how we like come into this through certain lanes. I mean, only to find out later that people already know what's up. So, for example, you brought up Ashwar Kwesi.
Yeah.
Right now, he's one of the individuals who was spearheading the idea of majority of the things that we've been brought up thinking that, oh yeah, that got nothing to do with us and that's somebody else's culture is really our stuff. Right? Later, he started talking about the Moorish paradigm. But
that's
only
what
if he,
Ben and Dr. Clark, and I was like, they keep saying nationality.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
What does it mean?
That's what I punched it in YouTube. Yeah. I'm like, I said, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've been constantly given individuals that have presented the message, but not in its correct form. Most of the time, because once you start talking about the Moorish anything, you lose all your so-called credibility that you got from whoever you got it from. Like all that's
all the schools,
all the everything means nothing, because now when you start saying that you're on the Moorish perspective with that past information, now you're a free Moorish Master Mason. You don't need those credentials. You know what I mean? To learn these things.
And I'm watching I'm watching and also reading more about more history and so on. Man, I can never go back. It's hard moving back into a corporate setting.
Yeah.
Right, and then people expect you, and then when you have the information and they're still talking to you that way, you keep trying to break it down for a minute, not trying to hear it.
Yeah, well, it's just like, again,
let everything go. They're like whores over here, as an example. Over there, they constricted them so much that they starved them out. So they're not able to even, they're just slaves. Here, even though they're still, the mountain is still the gods, here, they're the gods, but they've been overfed. They've been sort of given everything. It's too much. And then what's happened is then they have put this paradigm of your physicality being, and how you look. Like, think about the thousands of fashion magazines that are out there. Are any of them ever talking about, what you got to give? You know what I mean? On the picture, you're not seeing a grandmother working. You're seeing some hot chick in some tight miniskirt. Yeah. Right?
Brand new car, telling you.
Right. Or always pictures of their crotch, or pictures of their breasts, or beauty secrets, or sex secrets, or, what about integrity secrets? What about, picking a good man secrets? They do have some of those to an extent, but the greater proportion of the underlying subliminal messaging is your value is in how you look, really, for most women, right? And being tight and hot. And then you see, and we all see it, well, some of us who are maybe a bit older, then you see it when they sort of get, I call this when they finally figure out that, when they can't keep everything together and it's not about being, super tight, then all of a sudden the sex is flowing free and it's not about, that game that you have to play to try and get up in her earlier now. It's a whole different game now. And then a lot of the times, by that time, they've already got a couple of children from relationships that didn't come out of respect and love, came much more out of some weird he's hot and I want him up in here or whatever.
Huh? Say more infatuation.
Well, or lust, let's say, right? Or is it on, Kujo, or no?
Huh? Yeah, we're back up.
So that's where I see some of that from the reverse side. So there's that puzzle picture. And then the puzzle are the pieces here and what you do to put them together. And unfortunately, what I think I've come to right now and realized is that it's about putting into the movement to create the shell for the movement, whatever those things are, cultural events, gatherings, starting to do those things that other cultures naturally do. Other cultures naturally all move into an area, all elect one of their own who runs their area. I was telling these guys here yesterday, there's communities here right now that you can go in, you can gamble, you can get your women, you can get your drugs, you can get whatever. And from the perspective that I'm looking at it, from how I'm looking at it, from being a guy who's been on the streets, that shit's just going on. People know about it, but the so-called man ain't going in there to do anything about it, the so-called European man. And that's because he doesn't have jurisdiction.
That's their jurisdiction.
That's their jurisdiction. And on top of that, at that higher level, I'm gotta say this, but we'll never hear it, that those same people are telling those other people, you better shut the F up. Because you ain't no one here either. We'll play into this game because right now we're feeding off the carcass of us. That's really what's happening.
So, well, they are really, because we were reading it and you're hearing more information. It's like they're telling you, your family from the east. They're waiting for you to wake up.
Well,
but they're looking at you kind of in a way
yeah, we had this discussion before. You notice that if you ever go to any of these other cultures and you talk to them on that next level, hey, you're not Indian, you're Hindustani, you're not Chinese, you're Manchurian. Everyone gives you okay, you know something. But most of the time, when I've said to other people, what happens is I think they start getting scared. They're on the other level. What the hell's going on here? There's a man who's really talking because they've been told not to drop the dime. So now you're coming out. That's the same dime that you should know about. But all of a sudden, somehow you know about it and you're talking to them about it. So I sense with them that there's still a little bit of this, because they haven't seen it manifested out there, that I think that they're always, to a man, pretty much still, because this is
tiptoeing.
Still tiptoeing because they're not sure what the fuck's going on right now. You might be an agent trying to get me to start giving you a hand, and then I get deported. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. As an example, because they get told don't deal with us. Yeah. You know what I mean? Right.
They're told that.
Right.
Make sure that if you are traveling throughout the whatever, stay away from this block, stay away from this area, stay away from this area, stay away from this area. You know what I mean?
Don't talk to them, don't communicate with them. Imagine this, you gotta talk to this example, I'm speaking with one of my coworkers, and he's telling me about how where he's from, he has a tribe, and he has the name. And I'm like, that's the thing. Right? We have the name. He's telling me more about it. I'm like, yeah, we have it here too. He looked at me like this. I'm like, yeah. So you do? I'm like, yeah. You just don't know about it because the way the system is. They don't know about this. They don't want us. Yeah.
But remember too, like, you know, the only, it's just like you're saying, they're waiting for us to wake up, because us awake also gives them confidence to be awake and stop playing the game like they're with the European and have no jurisdiction here. Right? Like say Asian people,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
You know, people from anywhere in Asia, they got jurisdiction over here too. Right? They're Asiatics too. But if they've sided with the European to say, well, I don't want to be Asiatic, I'm going to be Asiatic/Canadian.
Oh,
Asiatic/U.S.
They naturalized
citizen. They're naturalized, so they lose their birthright. So now they're under privileges. But being that they're under privileges doesn't take away their national whatever, because they still got a community out here. They can still get the street shut down, go out there, dress up in all their stuff, have their flag out there, and do all the stuff that's quote unquote nation. But that's the privilege they get, being that they're not home. The privilege they get is they can open their own store.
And let's say this is some of the stuff that I thought about on the higher level. But really what's happened is, due to our loss, let's say 60, 70 years ago, when they created the kingdom of Morocco, we really pulled that stuff in, that what's happening in the illness is that there's been a small sort of oligarchy that's been controlling the slaves who have been producing all this shit, not getting paid for anything. So these Europeans have been using that energy to go out and sort of decimate other cultures, where like the Chinese and the Indians, these people are living 16 in a house, going out working for pennies a day, and this is how the other cultures battled the global sort of stuff that was happening from here. Because remember, everyone needs to work and do whatever, but if you've got a set of people that you ain't paying nothing to and got them running game, then the shit that you're always going to be economically stronger than the other people who have to respect and honor their people.
Unless those people who are under the
control,
occupation or the control go back to their ancient customs.
Yeah, right.
So we're looking at pennies on the dollar, you know, to get paid to go do whatever. But all these Europeans, they're going to Asia to go live, because you can live in a hut. You can live in a hut by the beach and eat mangoes and coconuts for the rest of your life to survive. Right? No job, no whatever.
That's why all these people go and sell on these beaches and stuff like that. But no, the reason why I was getting to that argument about, or that line of reasoning, was what I then think happened was, so what happened was, even though we're enslaved, still because we are the creators of life, our life here, still to some extent, is still 5 times better. Than still 5 to 10 times better than any of those people over there who work all their life to save up their money, have a work ethic that is beyond ours. Most of them, most of us couldn't compete with the way those people get worked, if you understand what I'm saying. But then now what's happened is their mental sorcery's gotten into them, that now those people are coming here. The same place that basically was an open, beautiful sort of paradise, then became this sort of slave colony, but still better than their own place right now, what their own people are really doing to them under even national guises, even though that's their culture and that's their whatever. That they don't know any different, most of those other races, unless they come here, and that's what this big American dream, the whole American dream was about.
And this is why when you look at Drew Ali and you hear him talk about truth and falsehood strangely mixed, that it applies on all levels. Not just on some knowledge level that, oh yeah, you're going to be confused if you go wherever to learn, because they're going to tell you truths and half-truths. Well, also, when you look at society, that's truth and falsehood strangely mixed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because just like you're saying, you have these individuals that, you know, they have a direct connection to their culture, but they would also have the ability to dibble and dabble in the culture that they were quote unquote brought into as a new citizen, because you know where they're from there. So now they can get chocolate bars and jelly beans
See, so
and,
sorry,
things that are foreign to them, but because this is new or they never experienced this before, they're gonna go nuts.
Yeah.
You know, they're gonna go overboard with it.
No, but I sort of sense, you see, and it just came to me now, I sort of sense that this was what you would call a almost an economic sort of revolution, right? In the beginning, it was us here. Yes, they brought in other cultures to do certain things, but it's only been in the last little bit that there's been this huge influx. Because what's happened, I think, and I think we're seeing this, what's happened is they've decimated us so much that we've now become useless to them, to a certain extent, right?
Yep.
The so-called black man is a useless cuss. He used to be what they built everything on.
Yeah.
Now they got to bring in a new set of people.
Yeah.
So now it's the Chinese is the new black, or the Indians the new black, because these are still people that, and like he's saying, they come in here, they can be Canadian, but then on any given day they can just jump in and go to their Punjabi thing, whatever thing, or their culture. You know,
Yeah.
you go to Gerard and Cotswold, that's Little India.
Yeah.
That's Little India. You know what I'm saying? Like that's their place. So what has happened is they've really gotten us to this level. What's happened is they've dumbed us down so much, and we have finally, to a certain extent, I think, taken the beatings so much that we're now sort of useless to them from the perspective that they've got. So now it's become an economic sort of thing where the Indian higher ups are saying, well, we got 1 billion of them. We'll send over 50 million.
Yeah, we'll send over 50 million.
We'll send over 50 million. They can set up their little community. We're going to get a little piece of this shit too. It's our shit anyways, to a certain extent. And we're just going to play this game. We're not waking any of them up. We're just telling them, shut the fuck up. Don't tell, excuse my language. Don't tell any of the people here, and just keep it real. So, well, hello. So, but I think what's happened is now,
what's up, bro?
The counter to that. The problem with that is, I think, and this is where he says truth and things strangely mixed, or yin and yang. We have to start coming back for things to turn around, because it's like the chain. We're all connected. So for them to sort of kill off, sort of, let's say, the gods, they're really killing themselves. So they're in this really weird position.
It's a crazy catch-22.
It's a crazy catch-22.
So they're trying to. I know we've been told that a few of them have been trying to make us up to fix this because it's getting out of hand.
Yeah. But you know, again, too, like, you know, it's like this youth man at one of the schools. He's Hindu, right? Every day has his dot. Every day has his red dot, right? Everybody just assumed that it's part of the culture. Yeah. Everybody just assumed that it's part of the culture. You know, that's just a cultural thing. But he's telling me that they do all their morning rituals, praying and all that stuff before that dot goes on. But that's not common to people who don't know that culture. That's just them. That's their in-house stuff that they do. Nobody else knows. If you're quote unquote competent and you have dialogue with them, now you're able to get in on what these people been doing for the past however long. Now we're looking at them packy dot. Oh yeah, you guys got the packy dot. When they're exercising supreme science. You know what I mean? They're exercising science that we need to actually be involved in. You know?
Where, like, for me, Because when I first, the first brother who put me onto Ancestral place, he was a 12 tribes Israel.
Yeah.
So when he was teaching me more about it, I was like, okay, now I'm gonna go move into that movement. I've been in that movement for a while.
Yeah.
I found this, and I was like, this is the answer I've been looking for.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
3/5 a person, they're telling you you're missing 2 pieces, and this has it.
Yeah.
And this will get the respect and dignity back. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But we I feel like we're slowly getting there. We need to wake up more of the youth, like, you know, like, because I think the older generation, they're not looking this way.
Yeah, I mean, and they never have. Even Drew Ali said in the 1920s, this is for the young and unborn. So it didn't have nothing to even do with people who were around him during that time, what he was doing. He was for the ones who were coming in with their eyes wide open, seeing and knowing, and then they're gonna get this, and they're gonna carry out what this is because they realize the power of competence over incompetence. Regardless of what anybody else says, they go with competence over incompetence, regardless of what. That's what the odds are. If we got to lose, well, it doesn't matter. And then again, going back to him talking about, you know, those who were with me yesterday are with me today. And those who were against me yesterday are against me today.
So that's why when I told him about how I got into this, when I met you at the basketball court, I was talking to you about the sand guard. And then you actually texted me that text with all the names. And we had a room, still having that text. It was 2 thin texts. And I was like, what's going on here? What's talking about? But about the awakening. That's what the prophet was saying, that this isn't the first time we've been here. But this might be now one of the times that we are aware of our connectivity to the whole timeline. Because at least right now, because my parents never told me about this. My parents never told me about this. They should know this. If they were older than me and they grew up here, then I should have at least heard about the prophet. Don't you think? Yeah. You know what I'm saying, Kudo?
But then you go back to who they learn from. And those people know. And then who they learn from. And those
but you're hoping that the closer that they're getting to back to us, that the more information there would be. But that's the illusion. Yeah, I know.
You know, the illusion is that, you know, like we said with you know, oh yeah, Astral Creation told us about and that's really, that wasn't what the info was about. Yeah, good info. Yeah, we learned a lot of stuff. We got a lot of reference points. We went and studied or whatever, but the fact no nationality and birthrights got talked about, that wasn't the lesson. You know, and then again, you had little people coming out, or big people coming out saying little things to try to, you know, get the message out that this is what it's about. But if they're not saying it on the level that the people are gonna stop and say, hold on a second, John and Clark just said nationality and you're not Negroes, and we said the same thing Noel Jolly said. That stuff that was on VHS. Go ahead.
In the islands, right? You know what was happening? When people was talking about that kind of stuff, they used to put them up, call his friends put them in my house.
Yeah.
That's what they used to do. So they keep on shuffling it down so they never really get out.
This is why when you look at the nation of gods and earths and what they did to Father Allah, doing the same thing. But he's saying that he's God, he needs to go in the madhouse. Why is he saying that he's God? He can't say that he's God or whatever. Right? And literally destabilize them by putting him in the madhouse. You know, like directly putting him in the madhouse. Right? Even with more have a little ticket or something like that. The ticket ain't no big deal. Go to court, tribunal or whatever. They start standing up on their square. They start talking about, you know, I'm not a corporation and stuff like that. They start saying, oh, he needs an evaluation, because what he's saying is not, part of the privilege lessons that the incompetent people are supposed to have. They make it a point to stress the fact that anybody who's going to be talking other than Negro, Black, colored, make sure that those people get examples so that, or make those people be an example so others don't get on that. Make sure. And then they have their people to watch to make sure that that's what goes down. Or, they take away their little whatever it is that they got. That they also got from so-called the European or the slave master or the whatever. Which yes, some of them turned it over and used it to assist our people. Right? Majority of them at least tried to do that. But again, if you're gonna say nationality and birthrights 2% of the time and everything else 98% of the time, then people are not gonna get this message. Which is where, again, it comes down to the obligation of the people who have this to recognize that we're the actual priests. That's what Red Book's talking about. Priesthood is dead. If you Drawley have all this stuff talking about warning to all the grand sheiks and the governors or whatever like that. Because priesthood's dead. Grand sheiks, governors, and all that stuff. You're that.
Expose everything.
But if the people are looking at it like they're it, then they keep taking this passive approach, waiting for some stuff that they're supposed to be doing. Like we use the example all the time. Somebody called into the show and they're talking about, where's the Moorish this and where's the Moorish whatever and where's the Moorish whatever. You build anything of the Moorish whatever you're asking for? No, shut the hell up. What are you talking about? Where's the Moorish whatever if you never built it yet? Shouldn't even be a thought, where's the whatever if you never attempted to build it up.
I think an additional amendment to that thought would be too, from the perspective that they have that saying, don't ask what the country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country.
Right.
So really, this isn't about what your Moorish nationality is going to get you from these people. Is what can we do to get our nation back up and running? And this is the main problem of where we're at, which is that people are still, because of the brainwashing, still, unfortunately, because of the condition as well, they're still looking at this as to how can I use this to get off of this?
To get out of or get off of
this to recompense something, not how do I go and take what I've made in this nonsense and give to the nation so that we can have a bigger temple.
Right.
Right.
So, like for example, what Omar just said. This is general laws as set by the Prophet. If there are children, you must see to their support. Follow this divine principle, for if you don't restrict this divine principle, then you are not a true Moor. And the heads are not to charge for membership or to overcharge for cards, buttons, or anything else issued by the Prophet. Those who contribute to either of the preceding are not Moors but robbers. Membership, sisters and brothers, is free, not only here but all over the world. The button is 25 cents, card 25 cents, 1 month's due is paid. Every member pays 50 cents a month for dues. This money goes towards the support of the temple. This, if not paid, does not entitle you to the protection that is provided for you, and especially if you are not working or in a position to work. If you neglect to fulfill this small duty assigned to you, how can you rightfully expect money or other help when you are sick or otherwise disabled? Okay. How can you expect to get something out where you didn't put nothing in there? How is it that, Moors want houses? Because they want something and there's some process that they can go get a house tomorrow. But they never put 25, 50, 75 people on to that process, how to get that house. They just got it and they just went and got one. Opposed to 50 people doing that process and 50 people out here going and claiming something. Now let's hear them say, you can't. Or you shouldn't do that. Or, you know, well, we're going to challenge you doing that because there's 50 of us that did it. You really going to take your time to do it? All right. But it's, again, it's the people recognizing what it is that they have. What is it that this man brought them? When he said, you're not Negro, black, colored, you're Moors. And he left it real plain and simple. And then that simple thing, they don't expand on that simple thing with the same lesson that he's saying that, oh yeah, make sure you put this on somebody else who doesn't know. Right? Just like with last week that with you bringing your brother Noah bringing his brother Yasun putting him on, me putting brother Yasun on, me putting brother Amari putting somebody on, Sister Juliana talking to Moors that aren't even here about her own little realm. That she came to realize herself that, oh shit, I've been wearing turbans and all that stuff. This is not some new stuff. This is not, oh, I'm more now. Because 2018, I realized that I'm more. No, if you check the record, you've been doing this.
Consciously.
Like, it reminds me of, for example, in the islands, right? Little children, and as soon as you hear the tambourines and the drums or whatever, time to go inside. There's Shango Baptist coming on the street.
And the bell.
And the bell and all that stuff. And children are like, hey, this is, no, you don't watch them, don't make eye contact with them and stuff like that. You know, you don't want to do that because those are Shango Baptists. And Shango is, you know, Yoruba, and that's occult, and that's devilish, and you don't want nothing to do with that. But they're wearing all white, you know, which is supposed to be purity. They got drums, which is, you know what I mean? Like, how is it a negative thing? Right? The confusion. The not knowing what is and what is not.
I could give you an example from my personal self. Before I find out what the Moors, I go to court with one of the so-called lawyer attorneys. It's a friend of mine that works in the law firm.
Spirits pushing that door out there.
So he get one of the attorney guys to go with me. I didn't have to pay him. So when I went there, I had my
Now,
Is it closer? Is it closer?
yeah, close that.
It is close.
Is it?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just
Maybe it's just the ancestors.
Friday. We on water running in the
Oh, yeah.
So what happened was, when I went to the court, the attorney guy telling me that I need to take off my hat.
Yeah.
And I tell him, no man, I'm not taking it off, man. I'm not taking it off. And he said, no, the judge not gonna like that.
Open the window when you're done.
The judge not gonna like that.
I'm trying to open it because
So
that's what's keeping.
So close the window?
Is it open or closed?
It's open. But the door's closed.
Anyways, go on. Sorry. I'm just trying to figure it out.
So I said to him, listen man, I brought you here to deal with this ticket, not my hat.
Yeah.
Not my hat. So forget about my hat. When I go in there, I will deal with the judge with my hat.
Yeah.
You deal with the ticket that we come with.
Right.
And he look at me funny, you know? Like, you know? Anyways, when we went inside, first thing he said to me, Mister, it's a religion. I say yes. He said like it's a religious thing.
Yeah.
I say yes.
Yeah.
End of story.
That's it.
End of story.
No talking about it.
And I didn't know nothing about the Moors, but I said I'm not taking off my hat, man.
Yeah.
I'm not taking it off.
Yeah.
And even the so-called license that I have, used to have there, I have my 2 times. Double time I will go to the place to take the picture. And they tell me take it off. I said no. Whatever you see, It's whatever you
That's
see
what
at
it
the
is.
time.
Yeah.
Don't look for me without this. So,
Yeah.
you know, and I never know what I know now. But that tells you that it's in you long time. It's inside of you who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my personal
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. You know, and once we come to that realization of, oh, this is not us learning about or whatever like that. This is remembering. This is being returned to the mindset that we used to have, where we actually recognize that, oh, if we're saying Moors or Moorish or whatever, or if we're saying Moors or anything like that, or anything relative, it's directly related to us waking up. It's directly related to us waking up, coming back into that mindset that we used to have. You know what I mean? So every individual has to find that thing where how they're gonna put this together. How they're gonna take where it is that they were mentally, spiritually, physically, where they were, get this information, and then now compartmentalize all that old stuff to now fit in with this paradigm. There's going to be some things that you're going to have to throw away, Negro black colored and all that.
And again, to look at it this way now that I know myself, I go to court with my friends now. They don't even mention.
Right.
They don't even talk about that.
It's not even a discussion.
They don't even talk about that now.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And again, they can't talk about it because they already know.
They know
what's up. We're the ones that's been in the dark for the past how much ever years. We had Drew Ali tell us 1913 about this. We didn't take him serious. None of the leaders who ever took him serious. Now, 100 years later, this man's stuff is making a renaissance, which is naturally that's supposed to happen, because this is not something that's going to go underground, dormant, and then it's never going to be found again. Something is going to be connected to this that's going to give it that momentum again. Right now, we're in momentum time again. In, like early 80s, there was a momentum. Mid 90s, there was a momentum. Early 2000, there was a momentum. And that cycle, that time again is coming along again. That there's too many people that want to know about this information for individuals who have this information to they just got it. Well, we're more, so we got it, and we got the info. When we have a duty to uplift others with this info, because we know that that's what this info will do. Because look at us. We're an example of what this information can do once you put this information in. All Moors, from Moors who just came into, but Moors who've been in this for 40, 50, 60, 80, whatever years. Right? You got some more?
So just wanting to continue to try and hopefully look at the other side, which I think is still not about trying to have them acknowledge anything. It's about us turning into our community and uplifting that and seeing our community, our larger community, as our family, and wanting to, and we were talking about this today, right, about, in another community, if they wanted to get a larger building, everyone would come and put finance in, and they get a larger building, right? Because that's what they wanted. But ultimately, we're still sort of, and we would find the finance to do that, but yet we're still sort of fighting him, the so-called the colonizer, to sort of acknowledge us. When that case today?
Right, which was the point of the counter-intelligence program, to make sure that those who are intelligent get dumbed down ASAP. Make sure that they don't know what the hell's going on. They got it so locked right now that you got You got people who are Aboriginal and indigenous, quote unquote, black people, denying Noble Drew Ali. Forget the black guys denying it, or you know, the more haters or whatever. People who are actually Aboriginal, indigenous, just like Noble Drew Ali was, are denying him and denying Moorish, whatever. Right? And this is a new wave. Because trust me, these people weren't around when we came into this. When we came into this, people who were Aboriginal and indigenous that were black, they recognized where the Moors are coming from. It wasn't like how you see it today, that you got people out there speaking from an Aboriginal indigenous platform, but they're not recognizing Noble Drew Ali or acknowledging his information as being liberated. Because first thing that the Aboriginal whoever's will tell you is that, oh yeah, we're not Indian. Like that's exactly where he's coming from when he says we're not Negro, black, colored. Just like the Aboriginal indigenous, we're not Indian, we're Aboriginal indigenous. It's the same message. But there's a just like the Renaissance keeps going on, there's the disingenuous that keep revamping. And again, they're able to do that because the people who have this information, majority of them, they're not in this for the long haul. They're in this to get whatever it is that they get out of it. Once they get that out, then they're gone. And then of course, they can't really make a return because they took what they took and they left. They'll feel like a jackass to come back and say, hey, how you guys doing? I've been here for 10 years, but I'm still a Moor and all that stuff. And so if you're still a Moor, where you been? You got some stuff? You got some books that you wrote? You got something to show that you've been? Oh no, you weren't. They took this and did whatever it is that they did, got whatever it is that they got. You know, like Omar said, used it to get the European recognized, whatever like that. The European recognized, but they didn't stay on it. They said, you know what? Forget this. We're gonna go and do something else. When this is the foundation, you know. CMB said, in order for you to be Great Seal, you better know the basic moral science, whatever. UNIA, they were talking about Allahu Akbar and all that in UNIA. Supposedly a Christian organization, Negro organization. But that's not what was going on behind those doors, what they were teaching. When you go read the Constitution for UNIA and all that stuff, they weren't talking about no go back to Africa only. They were talking about doing things here as well. Just like people bring up Black Starliner and talk about Marcus Garvey taking people back to Africa. Ain't nobody going back to Africa on little ass boats right there. What boat those boats taking which people back to Africa? That was strictly for trade and commerce. Like strictly trade and commerce. Being able to, like Joy said, talk to the brothers in the East, make them fill up the boat, and then send the boat back with whatever stuff that we need from over there that we could use here because we're here. Right? And if you check if you coincide the lessons, him saying Africa for the Africans really only applied to people here. It doesn't apply for people over there. But if Africa for the Africans, but you're saying that from here, clearly it's not about going over there. Clearly his concept of what Africa was, being that he was taught by Deuce Muhammad Ali and these people who had Islamic thought, not just Negro thought only, Black intellectual thought. They had Islamic thought as well. They had that aspect of the history that they were teaching to our people. And, you know, again, Nation Islam, fruits of Islam having fezzes in the early time. Because they were directly the muftis. Right out of Moorish Science Temple into being that. Right out of it. Jesus. Right out of that. Right? Being tied to Islam on a level where this must be the salvation of the people. And when you check the record, everybody knows that the founder of Islam in America is Noble Drew Ali. Muslims know that. People who do their prayer and face the east and stuff like that, and they need to hold on and stop work, I need to go pray and all those stuff, they know that, oh yeah, Noble Drew Ali. Those guys with the fezzes and the turbans and all that, yeah, they were the ones. They're the founders of Islam. So there was a campaign by him to end incompetence. The only way that we're gonna get out of the Negro, black, colored, and all the stuff that comes with that, the abuses, is by checking his program. And once we recognize what it is that he brought, then it's for us to take that and throw these seeds everywhere else so that this could grow.
Even Martin Luther was a churchman too, right?
Right.
Baptist churchman.
Yeah.
But still, in his speech, he said, "You're a slave in your own land."
Yeah. Yeah.
He said that you're a slave in your own land,
In your
wherever
own land.
you are, not a slave from Africa.
From Africa. You're a slave right
Slave
here.
in your own land. He said that.
Yep.
Yeah.
What shall we call him? So often, our various journalists find trouble in selecting the proper name for the Moorish American. Some say Negro, other will brand him raceman, still another will call him Afro-American, and then colored, dark American, coon, shine, the brethren, and your folks. It is indeed a hard matter to find something suitable for the various occasions where a title needs to be used. Is it that these people have no proper name? Did they have a national name when first brought to these shores in the early part of the 17th century? If so, what was it? Did not the land from which they were forced have a name? It now appears a good idea for those whose duty it is to write for the various journals to find out what the national name of the forefathers of these people was. Also, look into the history of the founders of civilization and see who they were and where they stood in the building of present civilizations. Probably 2 hours in an up-to-date library would serve to relieve the strain on our men of letters when the occasion presents itself for a title for these people. The matter of the various names given to these 22 million people with all colors of every race of the globe was an act of European psychology. They gave him a name, then defined it as something inferior to theirs, white. They defined as a color of purity. Black, they say, represents everything evil. The Negro, as they were called in this nation, have no nation to which they might look with pride. Their history starts with the close of the Civil War, or more properly, with his being forced to serve someone else. Thus, he is separated from the illustrious history of his forefathers, who were the founders of the first civilization of the old world. This matter should be looked into with the hope of correcting it. Now, a key point here, just for Moors, is probably 2 hours in an up-to-date library would serve to relieve the strain on our men of letters. Right, that there's so much information out there about this information that we shouldn't even be straining the Tajes and the Abdullahs and these people about, you need to write something for us to know about our history. You go to the library for 2 hours. You pull out so much stuff that you write your own books, which is what the whole point is, was going to the library to ease the strain on the men of letters. so that they cannot have to do it. But again, it's going to have to be sincere people. It's going to have to be people who are really about the liberation of the people. Which is why when, you know, when we check back the record of the type of work that people have put in for us to know about this right now, this information right here, right? There's people that had this information and they just gave it to everybody. They just gave it up. Whoever wanted it, took it. Who didn't want it, then it's cool, nothing personal. And then whoever's gonna take it and do BS with it, then hey, that's on them, because law of retribution is always gonna come back again. So whatever. There ain't nothing to do with, you know, what people do with it or whatever, right? But there was many who went to the grave with a lot of this info. Like, didn't even take the chance because of what was going on, because of the atmosphere. They themselves say, you know what, I'd rather take this to the grave than leave it out here for some of these people to get. This is the level of people that were here, which is again why, you know, there's so much for us to do in saying, if we say that we're this, then we should be standing up for this on every level. More so on the level where what your lane is. So everybody has a part to play in this. You know, it's like when they got the when you got the protractor, and then everybody has a degree. That's their degree. Majority of people don't want to really do what their thing is. They want to do other stuff, which again creates the stagnation. Because the attention or the energy, you know, again, you go clock 1, clock 2, circle of life, astrology, you check your stuff, then there's a lane. And that's supposed to be the guidelines that you use in order to make sure that the energy that you're putting in is going to yield something. You're putting energy into something that's really not your calling, then there's not going to be any yielding there. Especially if there's others who are doing that same thing. But one thing that everybody's supposed to be doing with this is to give this information to somebody else who doesn't know this info.
Save the nation.
Right?
That's what the prophet said.
Because this information will save them. That they don't even really need the individual who put them on. Once they get put on, they're supposed to go take their 2 hours in the library, get their stacks of books, and then present something to show that, okay, well, you know what, in my lane of whatever, this is what more science is. It's like I was reasoning with this Rasta the other day, and he's talking about, you know, I started reading the Noble Juali information a little bit more and tying it to, you know, the Rastafari paradigm. And I realized that Charles Edwards, who's Emmanuel I, is the Rastafarian Noble Juali. He did name correction from Charles Edwards to whatever. Told everybody else that that's what's supposed to happen. How are you gonna apply that? Is that you're going to go to the UN, read the Declaration of Human Rights or whatever, and then in that you're gonna find Article 15, and then his conflict was, why did they say that our nation was Ethiopian? Why did they say that our nation was black? Like, why did they lead right up to the line and then not go over the line with what this really is? Like, he had to have, I thought it was the door too. He had to have known if he got that far. If he got that far to know UN declarations and all that, he would have had to know. Now, when you look at the school, the Rastafarian school of thought, you know, Ethiopia Ethiopia wasn't just the Horn of Africa only. When Emmanuel I said Ethiopia, he's talking about we're citizens of the world. We're not just limited to where Haile Selassie was the emperor and then that's it when we say we're Ethiopian. So again, just like Garvey, with the concept of the Africa for the Africans, and you come to the realization that, okay, they're trying to reveal certain things, but why aren't they crossing that line? Why are they saying the word that everybody's running from? No, that there's, when you read the letters that colonization would be done if instead of black Ethiopian, they were saying Moors in that. And then when you go check the Garvey stuff and all the letters that he wrote, and you go to court and all that stuff, instead of talking all that Negro BS, you say Moors. And then you go to the Hebrew Israelites, and instead of them talking about Hebrew Israelites and all that, they go and they say Moors. And really do what it is that they're supposed to be doing with this. Yeah, what?
So more is no way of wraps in the back from 5 with catering. 1 to 4, 2 to 6. And it's not just tofu, the plantain, mushroom, veggie. Yeah.
Right. You know, and the message that was relaying to him was that, okay, well, being that you see this connection, being that you know, because you know he's Rasta, but he knows that he's El. It's not like he's out of this, being that he's Rastafarian. He recognized what brought him up or what made him, but he's more. When he's getting challenged with whatever, it's about birthright, not European and black whatever and all that type of stuff, all the Rastafarian stuff. You know, and again, like when you have you know, things in the culture, you know, them wearing turbans and them wearing jalabiyas, they're gonna say it's, you know, Rasta, whatever. All that stuff is Islamic, what they're doing. All of it is Islamic. And, you know, to recognize the foundation always means that you're gonna have to throw away who you thought was the guy, was the man, or the woman, or whatever.
But I just have a question. How come we're not talking about what we're doing for our own community and how we're going to build it? Or at least that it seems that that talk seems to be the least of it.
As far as, you know,
even from our perspective here. I'm just saying, just in general, right? I mean, all this acknowledgement stuff. I don't think all of us don't need any more proof of that. I'm just saying, what is the disconnect for us? Why en masse, most of us aren't turning around and realizing what we have to do for this?
Because of incompetence, which is the whole point of why things are repetitious.
Yeah.
And have to be repetitious.
Yeah.
Because if it's not repetitious, then they're going to forget about it tomorrow. Think about Noble Ali was going from 1913 to 1929 saying that we're not Negro black colored. People still saying that they're Negro black colored today. 100 years later, that stuff still exists. You find me some fiction that some other nation called themselves, if they're still calling themselves that, or if they've gone back to their true origin and their birthright and their culture.
No, but I find that it still seems that even a lot of those, like the NOI and a lot of these other so-called splinter groups, the Rastafarians, they're still repping their own stuff, most of them, and putting into their own stuff. I see, it seems that our...
Yeah, but they're putting into nothing. They're not putting into their own stuff. They're putting into Rome. Because what are they? They're not doing nothing for.
It feeds back to the same problem. It's the same thing that's happening with us, right?
Which is why it's getting dealt with. This is about the only way it's going to get dealt with if the people recognize what it is. You know, it's only, you know, like it's like we say with the thing of the if we use the Rastafarians for example, right? The triple crowns are fez. That's what it is. You're not to argue, you're not to debate. You don't have to do no 500 lectures about it. That's what it is. Are they going to see that? No, because they call themselves black. So they're in darkness. So they can't see stuff that's in front of their face because they're in darkness.
You're saying the sorcery alone creates the disconnect.
Supremely. It's beyond, you know, is whoever telling the truth or is whoever not telling. These people must be under some type of brainwash or sorcery or something like that to not get this yet. You know? And again, as much as you know, we wanna do for ourselves or whatever and do for the Moors, we have obligation to those people who are dumb Negroes out there that don't know about this. As much as they don't want it, you still have an obligation to make sure that they know about this. You know, we could do our part, but our part that we do is for us to do, for us to get somewhere. Just like you're saying that, well, you know, these people in NOI and whoever, they got their stuff and they're putting in. Okay, well, we use them as an example and we put into our own stuff. But again, even on that level, getting our own to put into their own stuff is sorcery.
It's like when we're infants and we're learning, it's the same thing with our ABCs and our 1, 2, 3. It has to be repetition for us to get it. And I guarantee you right now, half the grown-ups maybe in this room too, and just generally don't even know their multiplication timetable of the whole thing. And that's something that we're taught repeated.
Repetition.
So just to counter that,
and we still don't get it. So there's no counter anything. That's why the repetition is needed. And then in the second one, the reason why we're doing what we're doing is the same reason that it talks about in the Bible. Why Yeshua told the people what you were doing, or the disciples or whoever. Asked them, why are you with these people? So it's not the ones who are saved or who know that need to be saved. It's the ones who don't know, the ones who don't have the knowledge. They're the ones. There's no point saving someone who already knows, or you're building or trying to build someone who's already on the same level as you. There's nothing coming out of that.
Sorry, but just maybe you took it in the wrong way. So countering. My feeling is it's the very repetition that's gotten us in trouble. It's the very fact that you seem to have to learn with repetition that I think is part of.
And what's the reason why?
The reason in my mind
why is the reason why we have to learn? Why can't we get it the first time? If it could be said, and if it could be said and it's so clear, why is it not gotten the first time?
The reason why that is because of the sorcery behind how we've been indoctrinated.
So then the repetition is necessary.
No, it's not.
So then if you say it once,
it's what's created the problem.
If you say it once and then don't say it again.
Yeah, but the repetition is
the
part of
the reason why I'm saying the repetition is the problem is they've said it to you 1,000 times. So now when someone's come across to tell you something different, you got to undo those 1,000 times. But it's not 1,000 times; it's 1,000,000 times.
Right. So which is why the repetition. Which is why the repetition is the problem. You're still gonna have to detox.
He was saying that it was what we need.
Yeah, but it's the okay. So the repetition of the Christian Black codes and the repetition of the 101 questionnaire is two different repetitions.
Yeah, you're talking about like repetition of the problem. It's what they're repeating.
What's the repetition? So the repetition of the right stuff 1,000,000 times would counter.
No, but what I'm saying.
Can I say
No,
something?
but do you understand that though?
Yes, of course it is.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
It's like having, this might not come across good or whatever, but it's like having a water pathway, right?
A water what?
Pathway.
Okay.
Like how a river flows. Whether man-made or not, it was dredged
or the water after a few years started to carve through that path. Now you want it to flow a next way, right? And all you're doing is you're getting buckets and dumping it somewhere. That's not going to change it. Work has to be done. So what you're going to have to do is harder than what already is, because it's already etched and it's used to going through that path.
That's what I was getting to.
But that's what also the brother is saying. How we or they were taught to be dumb and blind was through repetition. That's a part of the sorcery, which is why when Hitler came, right, he knew about the 7 principles, or the 7 universal principles, and one being repetition. And he says, as long as you can repeat something over and over to a people, whether true or lie, they will believe it. We are coming out of this darkness, and it's being passed on from generation to generation. If it was started from the youth, then it would have been done already.
So what I was countering that is I was saying that I don't think it's going to be repetition that's going to get us out of it. It's going to be something else.
But what else is
That was my
But it can't be anything else.
It has to be to a certain extent.
See, the problem is
But
our
to take them
formula.
out of school, you have to get the family.
The problem is the formula.
You have to
We're
get
programmed, and then we're trying to reprogram.
Right.
And you can't do that.
That's right.
You have to
That's what I'm
deprogram.
saying. So
You have to
therefore,
deprogram
detox.
right. So therefore, the
and
repetition
then
can't be.
reprogram yourself.
So that's right. So saying that you're more a million times isn't going to counter the already etched path. It's going to have to be something else.
No, but that's the same way. When you study psychology, or now there's plenty of things on the internet,
It's just
precisely YouTube, and it's talking about building new patterns or new, what's the word I'm looking for? Habits. It's through repetition.
Neural pathway.
Yeah, because again, everything you're used to doing literally is being etched or is etched in your brain.
It's like muscle memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to willingly train yourself to
Last
do
night,
something else.
I
But it
was
has
at
to be in line with the what you don't want.
Yeah, like a good example is when, for example, Moore's having a conversation or whatever, and then they say, "Oh, that was nice," but they know the etymology.
Yeah.
They catch themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, well, because of the brainwash, I'm saying nice.
Good.
But you know what? I'm gonna stop saying nice. Yeah.
So you're just correcting in your mind. So now when you say it, that's how come you're able to be conscious that you
Of
said
that
it.
you said it. Right.
But not only that, even in the conversations that are happening, you as an individual might get caught up in a conversation that allows you to lose your persona or how you're being looked at on the outward. And you say that, you're like, oh, shucks. The reason why I say that is because I lost my train of thought, or I lost my discipline. So it's like every individual has to be mindful of what was it that made me lose my discipline. And individuals can't really expect for another individual to have that to show them, you know, we'll have to find out, oh, they can help, assist, but
And that's to be in the subconscious.
In general, remember now, when we're here now, we speak the same language. When we go to work, we hear a different language.
Right.
So it's not like I'm at work and I'm hearing the same language. So it makes it's buried in me. No. Even last night I was at the laundromat and I met this young lady and we started share thoughts, and she kept saying about kids, and I said, listen, what kind of animal have kids? She said, goat. I said, then how come you calling your little niece kid? He said, you're right. And we have been conversation. And sometimes again she used the word again and she started to catch herself.
Right. Right.
You know, so that the same, that's where she was. She's down in the kids' world. And now somebody just tell her about kids. And it makes sense to her because she said it's goat. She admitted that it's goat. And by talking sometimes she said, and she catching herself. Just like that. So it's something you gotta go over it again. You know, go over it again to get it correct.
Reprogram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go with this. Just for
just because when I'm traveling, I listen to Moorish tracks and stuff, and the children, they don't think it's like really on, you know, for them, they don't really think it's really that good, you know. But I still think if you travel with me, you're listening to the artists, right? So now I know they're singing along to it now. They're like singing the tracks and they're like, you know the words and stuff. I'm like, wow, it's just like, just for them having to listen to it. Even though they always tell me, oh, God, can you change it? Or can you play this, can you play that? And like, you know, sometimes I'll oblige, but it's just them always hearing the tracks, now they know the tracks.
Yeah.
In a way, so it's like, just that repetition of always. You know?
Oh, they just open.
Yeah, just like
Anybody else got any comments on or questions? A masterpiece of religious literature, secrets of other creeds revealed. The Prophet Noble Drawley has spent many hours preparing the latest edition of the Quran, which will be a masterpiece of religious literature. To Americanize the Oriental idea of Islam involves many changes that are more or less negative to the main purpose of the Islamic religion. Such changes are carefully considered with the idea to avoid changing the complexion of the original text. The philosophy of the ancient prophets is the main initiative in the compilation of the Quran. No thoughts of propaganda enter this work, as has been the case of many former religious works, such as the Bible and other books of creed. The sole purpose of the Prophet in giving such a message to the world is to save fallen humanity. When a compiler attempts to inject propaganda into a work of this kind, there arises a need to cover a true text in order to prevent a clash with the truth and ideas involved in such propaganda. Former works of this kind have either hindered or helped the nations proportionately to the adherence to the truth as to the original purpose of keeping the ignorant in such a state. It is hard to resist the temptation to use this medium for gain. Hence, many of the former treaties on works of this kind have been the means to foster ideas of the unscrupulous, wherein they desire to use religious influence for gain. Many secrets known to the Prophet that could be used for the salvation of the nation were either left out or colored to an extent that their meaning was made void. Such is not the case with this edition of the Quran. All the secrets of the ages known to man are put into this work. The secrets known only to the Magi are here revealed. The reading of the stars, the interpretation of marriage relations, the understanding of the span of life, and other such has been kept from the Occidental world are in this book boldly brought out. The Quran, Americanized as it will be, can be bought in a few weeks. It will be sent to all governors of the Moorish Science Temple of America by Prophet Noble Drawley. Now again, going back to the sole purpose of the Prophet in giving such a message to the world is to save fallen humanity. When a compiler attempts to inject propaganda into a work of this kind, there arises a need to cover the true text in order to prevent a clash with the truth and ideas involved in such propaganda. Many of the former treaties on works of this kind have been the means to foster ideas of the unscrupulous, wherein they desire to use religious influence for gain. So the individual who was taking the grand governor, grand chief, grand whatever position, was supposed to relay this to the people that the secrets that Noble Drawley laid out in the Quran were known only to the Magi, which would be the high priest, which is going back again to if Noble Drawley is giving these secrets up, which only belong to the Magi, then he's letting you know that ain't no priesthood. There's no people who are priest people that are going to put you on to whatever. You're the priest that's going to go out there. You're going to do your 2 hours in the library, and you're going to come out with information that is going to be able to be used to liberate our people. And then even everybody doing that is repetition of this information getting out, or uplifting fallen humanity being repetitious, right? Or awakening the people being repetition, spreading the message of what it is that we bring. Because again, we're the only ones that are gonna assist these people out here. Everybody already had their chance to prove, can you do this? And they took the position of, no, we're just gonna do this for gain. We're not gonna do this to liberate the people. Doesn't make sense, because we can get gain from this. Like more, you know, always take it as an opportunity to make sure that knowing more is just something that you do. Like, it's just something that you do. It's not even supposed to be a task to know more information. And when we look at things like the Quran and things like that, reading that one time, you get something. Read it again, you get something different. Read it 5, 8 more times, you get something different every single time that you read the same literature. Which shows how deep the information could go. And we're just dealing with that book. Now think about all the books in your library and how much times you read those. And then go back again to the thing of, well, okay, well, that's why things aren't going how they're supposed to go. Because what's expected to come out is not being put in.
I pose a question. I mean, I posed this question to myself a long time ago, and I pose this question to everybody. Are we afraid to get the information out? Are we afraid to make that change? Are we afraid to be repetitive with this information? I mean, that's a question that everyone should ask themselves. Are you afraid? Because you know you're going to get backlash. You know people are going to be against you. You know you're going to be the center of attention no matter where you go. So, I mean, you have to ask yourself that question. Are you afraid to be that? Because you will get that attention. And so, I mean, I pose this question to everyone. Are you afraid?
I wouldn't say it's fear, but for me, I'd say it's more of a frustration thing, which could be a sign of some kind of fear. But the fact is that when people look at you as you're being against your, because you're saying you're not black, you're against people, and realistically, you break it down, you say it's not about me and you are saying black, whatever. Even though I'm not really cool with saying black, I'll kind of oversee it. But like somebody would say, okay, like if somebody say to me, "Oh, you're black," like in a conversation, I'll correct them and say, "No, I'm not black." But if you're saying black as a general, I'll let it slide because
to correct them every time they say it.
They don't have to say it so much. Like it's going to be in every sentence. You're going to be having to correct it, and it's frustrating. And even to some sense, some people would think that you're being, self-hate. And realistically, I know myself, right? Because all these things you guys are operating on is basically nonsense.
But you see the dynamics of like having that fight within yourself.
Yeah,
it's a fight. Do I say something? Do I not say something? What, you know?
It's true. I understand, because even with me, sometimes, I mean, unless, like with me, I even told myself I should be doing more because that's what we're supposed to be doing. But sometimes it is like you said, it's a fight within itself, just to continually battling upstream with these people. Because Why can't you guys get it just as easy as I got it? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Like real
Not
talk.
rocket science. It's part-
Real talk.
it's the programming, and the programming is good, and the fact that it's just a small fraction of people that are, on this, and the mass is on the black stuff, so everybody wants to go with the trend, right? And
But again, as I said, the masses, they're like, for instance, like today, there's going to be a visual downtown, and here goes this number again, 25,000. That's what they're saying that's going to be down there today. They already have that number in the air, 25,000. So there's that 2 and 5 again, right? And when I heard that, it's like, does it ever end? That's like, we can't be the only one that's stuck on that. Like, that's not stupid. We can't. Like, it might sound mean saying it like that, but I'm not afraid to say it. You know, because 2 and 2 is 4.
No matter what you do, it's the same 4.
You know what I'm saying? Like, black, teachers speak on etymology. They tell us that in university. So if you're having an argument with a university student on black and etymology of black is pale, you go down the line of the different variations of it, and they're still stuck on calling you, like, come on, man. You know, it's like walking around with a baseball bat, just hit people over the head just so that they get it. Like, you know, the fear has to, like, it's just that fear that is holding a lot of Moors back in terms of moving forward. It's true.
Fear.
even with
The Moors, what do you say? Fear the Moors that are dispense the information.
Let me say that, unproclaimed Moors.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought.
It is.
All right.
Because we know they're Moors.
Right.
Period. Like, there's no contradiction to that. It's fear that's holding Moors from.
Yeah, after I left Armenius and I went to the studio, I was reasoning with a few of my peeps on that same stuff. And one of them,
Actually, what just a question that got sent. There's if anybody's seen the most recent uploads, there was a brother that was, he came up under SETI and these people or whatever like that, and he was saying like, yo, I can't believe that you guys are talking bad about the master teacher, the people that came before you guys that laid the foundation that you guys even standing on or whatever.
you saying that to who?
To just into YouTube world
Okay.
about Pharaoh and these people. You know what I mean? That I came up under you guys, but I'm looking at you guys funny right now.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So one of the questions, because I put a message on his video, reminding him that, hey, because he was making the statement, the NOI did this and the Moors did this and the whatever. I'm like, well, don't put Moors like that. Like, you're a Moor too. Don't look at it like being Moor is part of the Islamic whatever that you don't want nothing to do with because you're just not Muslim or whatever. You're Moor too. So with regard to your example of building with the brothers yesterday, his question was, explain to him how he's a Moor. So we just wanted to put that out for people here, who are Moors, to explain to this brother how he's a Moor too, because he thinks he's black or African or whatever and not Moor.
All right.
Just
to finish
the story.
We were just talking about one of the brothers. He seen the necklace. He seen the 7. So he's like, "Oh, you're in the 7 too," and da 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 da. So he started talking about Hebrew Israelites and I already built with them on more. So he's just trying to pick my brain a bit. But it pretty much ended up being that the reason, exactly what you're saying, the reason why no one, because they're like, if this is so, because they're boggled. They're like, why? How come we don't know about this? Or how come this is? If this were Moors, and why are they saying this and da 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 da? And how come people can't accept and anything to them? I'm like, yeah, exactly. You've been indoctrinated in something all your life, or say you just went into a school of thought for the past 10 years or so, and that's what you've been delved in. and you're devoted into that. Now someone's telling you no, you have to switch up and change your whole everything. Yeah, that's trauma. That's trauma. That's trauma. So yeah, there's a big fear. But the simplest thing I could tell that brother is that, or I'll ask him a question: what makes you black? Right? So, and then I would say, to follow it up, the things that you think that you could tie yourself to make you black, if you look underlying those surface things, that's the reason why you're more. Because everything we try to equate to black is really Moorish culture. Yeah. Right? So you're saying we're all black people. No, just eliminate that. We're all Moorish people. And then start to apply everything accordingly. So there's certain things that we do as a people that don't fit the script. Yeah. There are, we're still more, but there's a lot of lower self things we do that we could equate to niggerish acts or niggerish ways or black ways, if you want to call it. Yeah. Right? But at the end of the day, our root and our essence comes from that source where we're more. And more is always evolving, it's ever evolving. So that's why they use that word to equate something of a greater amount as well.
Anybody else on the more?
Sometimes when you're trying to put it out, and for me, one thing for me is that sometimes I step up with my emphasis on the thing, it's like emphasizing more on it. So sometimes they thought I'm upset, so I have to clear the air and say, no, I'm not upset, man.
Oh, well, because of the overemphasis
that I'm
on
putting
certain things.
Because it's so simple and you can't ever see it. It makes me just have to step it up for you to see it. And then when they try to, I said, listen, man. For one thing, you say you're a slave and they used to whip you and the this and the that. No, I'm not even touching you. I'm just using my mouth. You just let me give it to you, bro. They have begun treating you wrong way with a whip.
If I had the whip or something,
I'm correcting you with just telling you, man. Just listen to what I'm saying. I have to bring it up to you and say, man, if you say you were a slave, you were whipped to be slave. No, we're taking you out of it. I'm not even using a whip, bro.
Still can't control.
And no, you know what I mean?
Because again, I guess it's that sense of that whip coming sometimes. It's like I'm like looking around, it's like, again, man, like all of us, we've had that experience where we're telling our family, telling friends, whatever, and they're looking at you like, are you okay? Listen,
especially with family.
Yeah.
Because then they think that you're being dishonored when really you guys are dishonored.
Yeah. But you see, that's that flip of the script. Oh, you don't like our family name now?
Exactly.
It's like
we had that through generations.
Yeah, I see.
Do you admit it's from the same guy?
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? Yes, but you know what I mean?
There is no buts.
I don't, my mother is Yiddish and I don't have that problem with her because she said, yes, son. It's a slave name they give to us. I know that. I remember things like my parents told me. I know that. So you're right. It's not the name.
Simple as that.
And she's a Christian church lady too, but she said that much. She said, you're right, son. It's not the name. I remember when they talk about it in the years ago before I even started to have children. It's a slave name. So you're right when you fix it. That's why she said, why won't your brothers try a thing like you? She said that. And I don't even see her yet since I've become good conscious. I don't even see her, but she knows.
Yeah, so you had something?
Yeah. I think when you find yourself coming into this knowledge or back into yourself or whatnot, before you even reach here this level, you already have a bit of an understanding of who you are. I don't think you come into this trying to find out who you are. Because I have enough brethren. We've been conscious, all of us been conscious from very young. All of us, most of us had losses, Rastafarians, and I presented this to 9 out of 10 of them. And a few of them have gravitated to it. They've been to the temple, they come, they've even put on nationality paper. and now one of them is here right now. But I think it's like they're still, well, they're on a level, but I think they're still looking for something before, like, because to me this is like Osiris was saying, like this is nothing. It's like you open your eyes in the morning and it's clear as day.
Yeah.
Right? So that struggle that they're going through, where it's like they're going back to whatever they were doing before, they're still conflicted, or they might say, okay, yeah, I know more, and but there's no activity at all. They're still not sure themselves outside of this. Like, so until that happens, they'll never take that other step or that leap. Because the comfortability too, the programming, the conditioning, like it's hard. So I was imagining like what we were talking about before, like a level. So like there's the middle level and there's tiers going all the way down. And that's all the repetition that Omar is talking about, the one that affects us in a way that's not good for us. So now at that level, say 1,000 times something's been repeated to you in a negative sense. You gotta do 1,000 positive ones to even get back to freaking neutral, and then do 1,000 more positive ones to reach a certain level. Because now once you do that 1,000 ones to get back to zero, you're still neutral. You're like, you're a baby.
And you know, when you're at that point too, it allows you to see the worth and the value of your own self and whatever thought that you hold to be valuable. Now you're looking at it like, is that really my thought, or did I just take that on because somebody said it and I went with the flow and it sounded nice? So
exactly. And some of us have that same 1,000 D program, but we didn't have to go through the 1, 2, 3. Some of us took 5 at a time. Some of us took 10. Some of us took 100.
1 to 100.
Some of us took 1,000. Went from that D program right away. We're back at neutral, ready to freaking start our programming and our reprogramming. Right?
There's actually a study done though. There's a study done on how negative and positive things affect the mind, and it's actually like it's not 1-to-1. Not one positive. Like if I say, "Oh, you're pretty," and then I say, "Oh, you're ugly," it doesn't negate it. It doesn't make it zero or make it neutral. Actually, the negative has a like tenfold more effects than a positive. So if a woman is told 10 times she's beautiful, but by one person says, "Man, you look fat."
Yeah, it just eliminates
that one time.
That 10 times, it doesn't matter how. That one time of being told you're fat.
And unfortunately, that's our human nature right now. That's our everyday living. We let the misery and everything overtake the joy and the happiness that we feel. Right?
We were building on that before.
That's another program in terms of society where
when you said reminds me of
every statement what we say towards fear, which is what we're talking about, which is a negative.
1 step forward, 2 steps backward.
People gravitate towards that, right? Easy.
We had been talking about that earlier in terms of when you had made mention of the fact that when someone says you're ugly, that affects you more than beautiful. We were talking about that as a paradigm, it seemed to be in particular in regards to the feminine energy in our culture in general. That this need to look a certain way has been heavily sort of, I think, poisoned the feminine energy behind this. Because ultimately they're caught up in the mundane. And then we see it played out in our cultures where the young girls, because they look tight and fit, everyone's after them. And then we were talking about how we moved on to a culture when when the women realized after maybe having some children that wasn't important anymore, then you started to really get to what was really
the point.
The point. So that's 35 years down. Couple of baby mama, whatever drama, all that kind of stuff. When that stuff should have been dealt with from the beginning. That's part of the indoctrination. It's really about how you looked, not about who you were.
Well, to add to again, I don't want to bring it out like fat or whatnot, but if you look at a lot of the shows nowadays, a lot of the melanin women, they have them as big. If you see it, I don't know if anybody watches it, but they'll have that one empress and she's big. Why are they doing that? Why they putting that into everybody's psyche? It's not a negative. I'm not looking at it as a negative. What I'm saying is, how can the society, as I said, in terms of our women, how can we look at that as a positive?
Sorry, so you're asking how they can?
Yes.
Well, why would ultimately?
Well, again,
yeah.
Do we, okay, this is what I'm saying. Do we look at it as a negative, or do we look at it as a positive?
I say the mere fact that you're looking at it all shows that you're caught up in the mundane.
Yeah.
Because really, it's not about how you look. We talked about this earlier.
No. What I'm saying is that's the only image that's like 99% of the image that they show.
Because I see lots of them where the sisters are basically they're European, except for the fact that they're melanated. They got everything else. They got the hair. They got the whatever. It's all. I mean, just maybe depends on what shows you watch.
Yeah,
but that's the society, and that's what I was saying, that the society we're dealing with, or who's in control of the society, understands these dynamics. We're 100 feet behind. And we're forgetting, like the point that you mentioned with the sisters or the mothers, they function a certain way, whether we like it or not. They're designed and function a certain way. So certain things are said to a man won't affect them the same way.
No, but wait a minute. I'm sorry to cut you, because I think that's wrong. I think the reason they react to that is because they've been indoctrinated. No, remember, child doesn't know hate.
Yeah, but I'm going on a broad scale. Even if you leave North America.
You're right. So right. And when you go down to the islands, that same figure that here is bad against, all of a sudden you
go right now to the remote parts of even Taiwan. Females or women, that's innate. They gravitate towards what's the word I'm looking for? If you will, positive, like to be exalted. That's their design. So this is what I mean. They understand that. It is not just subjected to here or the islands. This is human psyche, right?
What does that have to do with Taiwan?
Because you brought up the thing of the Western ideal, and I'm saying is what we have to start getting into our mind is what we're fighting against. And like last week, Empress here mentioned that they do studies. We understand this. Why do they do the studies for? It's to churn out these issues, right? To benefit their paradigm.
What they want to see manifest.
Yeah.
So remember, you can't change the truth. The truth is always the truth.
That's
the fact that
what we're dealing with right now.
Why there's any issue. I mean, studies, in my mind, that they do are trying to figure out ways, like you say, to continue those things.
Yeah.
But it's still not changing the fact that really this whole issue of how you look and whatever is all.
But that's what we need to understand in order to try to undo.
Say that again?
You need to understand.
I do understand.
No, when I say you, I don't mean you in particular. I'm saying in general. Right? Yeah. We need to understand why they do the studies and what they're doing with those.
Why they put it on
the air? Yeah.
Why do they put it online?
Because they know their effects and what it's going to turn out.
I think maybe we're mistaken, because I'm not talking about the study. I'm talking about the issue of the fact that we're talking about women and how they look and their looks having anything to do with it. I don't know what the study has to do with it. I'm looking at repairing that damage and starting to re-educate, so-called re-educate, connotatively, our sisters and let them know that really to be that advanced culture, it's not about how you look, it's about who you are. And none of us can say that, and me included, can say that I haven't been affected by, to me, the Western indoctrination process of she has to look a certain way, a certain body type.
Yeah, but in order to treat the illness, you need to know the problem.
Yeah,
go ahead, let's say something about that, because you have to do with self-acceptance. For women, for us, we have to accept ourselves as we are. If we want anything changed, we have to do what work we have to do to get it changed on our behalf. So you looking at somebody and say, "Oh, I'm ugly." Maybe to you I'm ugly, but to somebody I'm beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's just based on that person's perception of what beauty is and what ugliness is. But then at the same time, the woman have to come into, do I accept myself as I am, or do I want to look like somebody else? I'll put on all of this other stuff,
But what's going on here is, where I'm coming from is, we're dealing with it already developed. Let's take you, for example. you've already accepted who you are. So if you have a daughter, you're going to indoctrinate, not in a negative sense, with that. So she's not going to be like the typical, right? She got the right programming from the base. And that's what counts, is your base. What we're having to deal with and what we're talking about is the after effects. So now you're coming in contact with someone that's already been affected, and you're just trying to remedy it without understanding. You're not getting nowhere. So that's where I'm talking from. We need to understand what the cause is
and why it's being done.
Yeah.
Can I say something to what Omari kind of asked about the initial topic? I don't know. I've noticed in the past 10 years or so, or it could be longer, but there's like I wouldn't say it's a feminist movement or maybe a feminine movement or a shift. I don't know what their agenda is. It could be possibly because they know that look that we were taught, this slim look with it wasn't the ideal look. That's not the everyday woman. In the past years, they're starting to do plus size thing, plus size models, and they're promoting bigger size for bigger women because they know that the everyday woman looks normal. She might not be the runway, what we consider the runway model look, you know, the anorexic runway model look. So I don't know if they're doing it because they're trying to empower women, because they realize that women, that okay, the everyday woman actually looks like this, so let's make them feel more
that's
liberated.
the question I'm asking. Is it a negative or is it a positive?
Because they know that, okay, well, there's maybe in America, it looks like there's somewhat of an obesity problem sometimes with our people. And the women are big, so we're promoting this and we're not really making money because all the women are skinny. So now let's market to them. So we can capitalize on it, right? So
it always goes back to what they are trying to attain.
Right.
So just like now, this whole conscious movement, what are they doing?
But then it comes back to exactly what Juliana is saying. At the end of the day, it's that individual to know their self and be comfortable in their skin.
But that individual has that base in order to reach that point.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure Juliana's case, right? Her parents instilled in her some of those, if not all, those values. And that's why when she reads, and we're coming back to it again, because I wanted to mention this. All of us, while we're here, at some point in our lives, had someone or something to show us what we are here doing right now. Because that's why I said the base or the core, that's where it starts and ends. You can be bad man all you want. Here comes that word. But if your mother, father, or both parents taught you something, just not go into that lifestyle, you reach a certain point in your life, that wheels you right back to stopping that lifestyle. The person that never had that, they continue being lost. It's the base. Oh, there you go. But
let's pull this out. Let's do some studying for a second.
I also want to add to the original question.
Yeah, well, he's gonna read something.
Well, while he's looking for that, I want to add something about the original question with the brother. Like, why is there more? And like for me, I was just thinking, for me, I've heard of everything else under the sun. Everything, basically. But I've never heard of war. I've never heard of Mobutu Ali. I never heard of, the concept of us being Asiatic and, and being ourselves. So for me, I realized that something's going on. There's no way I'm not supposed to hear about this, because I started being conscious, like, studying whatever, so meeting with the Moors. That's probably like 5 years of just studying how the hell did I not really hear about the Moors until
I know that's a real good point.
I met with Amari through my cousin, through my family.
That
I'm like,
funny.
how the hell did I not hear about this?
No, but I mean, to add to that, because when you saw me a couple of times before that, I was wearing a turban. You didn't ask any questions.
Exactly.
You didn't like, why is this guy? You didn't ask that. You just saw me.
That's common, right?
Yeah.
You thought that was me.
That's
You
cool.
Yeah,
Stalin on
yeah. Honestly, that's what he thought. Like, he's like, okay, you wear a turban. Yeah, you wear a fez. Yeah, okay, all right.
Last night the girl at the laundry, she told me she never hear of no Gujarati. Never hear of.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of times we
You
hear
know
it.
about Marcus Garvey, you know about Martin Luther,
Yeah.
all these people, Muhammad, Jesus Christ, but she said she never hear of no Gujarati.
Yeah.
Last night she told me that.
Every one of those names you just mentioned came from.
Good.
And a lot of times that we don't see or don't hear from it, just that because we're not used to those words, it was like once we
no
hear
Gujarati,
it, then it jumps on. No,
I want to stop.
I seen a photo.
I want to stop you. Speaking of just no Gujarati, that word alone, I never heard it, bro. I never heard it. I heard Muhammad, Marcus Garvey, all of them, but I never heard that one. So not like I heard it but never recognized it. I never hear it, never hear it. That's me. Never hear it.
So for me, it's like, what is the big secret? So I have to find out what is
What's the secret? Yeah.
And that's what fascinates me. And that's what probably helped me.
In regards to the guy asking, brother asking whether or not he's more or not, just, well, black's an adjective.
Right.
So you know you're a noun, a person. Right? So if you've got a dictionary, it's going to send you from black straight to blackmore. Well, it's going to tell you dark skinned person.
And the brother's dark.
That's your answer right there.
The brother's dark. You want to do with that before we close up?
God. So when you say you're bad, you have a house of prostitution.
Back to the harems.
Yeah.
In the mental that I'm bad. No, I think I'm bad. And put that same in and it was
That was the hex.
The change is working.
Yeah. That was the hex.
I'm a bad man.
That's it.
Bad.
Yeah.
And that's what we go in. We wrote it. See the Gallus and
Anybody have any last questions or comments?
Straight.
All right. Anything for this week, Friday?
Yeah, class Friday,
All right.
7:30 until 10. Most nights.
So Fridays, 7:30.
At the temple.
Don't forget Tuesday, we got online class for the Wars in Canaanland. Wednesdays, we got the conference call. Obviously Fridays. And also to check out the blog talk shows at 9:30. 9:30 on Tuesdays, 9:30 p.m. Tuesdays, Blog Talk Radio, MHHS Eyes Wide Open on Blog Talk Radio. There's good, no question. You have any closing comments or anything? Or? No. All right. So this is our Moors. Peace to all the Moors worldwide. We'll just close out.
You have any left?
Yeah.
All right.
We're just waiting for the man to watch it. Anybody have any other questions? Nothing else?
That's it.
Five on the left, two on the right. Allah, Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My guide.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night.
By night.
And by day.
And by day.
To His holy prophet.
To His holy prophet.
Noble to Ali.
Noble to Ali.
Islam.
Islam.
Ashray.
Amen. Ra.
Amen.
We're gonna start.
Oh.
Yeah, we're gonna start looking at the board. We're gonna start selling. We're gonna start selling. So everybody else brings the books. And then on the Saturday, we're gonna discuss the